This is Paul Kramer. I'm one of the members of the CSBARS committee. Today I'll be substituting as the chair of the meeting for our new chair, Jay Frickberg of the University of West LA, who had a last minute issue that made him unavailable and unable to join us today. The first task is to take the roll call. Raquel?
Oh, let me promote George and then I'll take the roll.
It's okay. I just promoted him because I know you need to take the roll. Thank you.
Okay. Jay Frickberg. Michael Clancy.
Present.
Linda Keller.
Present.
Paul Kramer.
Present.
Greg Murphy. Jessica Park.
Present.
George Liu.
Present.
So we have a quorum.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is, well, before we do that, I'll let the new members, especially of the committee, introduce themselves if they wish. Dean Keller.
Sure, thanks. My name is Linda Keller. I'm Dean of Thomas Jefferson School of Law, an independent law school in San Diego, and I'm happy to join the committee.
We're happy to have you. Dean Leal.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. Dean George Leal, Irvine University College of Law. A lot of familiar faces, so no introduction is really necessary. Just very, very happy to be, I guess, on this side of the great regulatory divide. So I'm really pleased and looking forward to participating and contributing.
And Bill Bridges across the divide.
True. Always a good idea.
Okay. Let's see. So then the next task is going to be for us to take public comment. We're going to limit the comments to 2 minutes. If you wish to make a public comment, if you're using Zoom, you should see a raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on that to raise your hand. If you are calling in on the telephone, use your touch tone pad and hit star and then 9 to raise your hand. We will activate you to be able to speak one by one. Our timekeeper will call out when you have 30 seconds rather left in your time to comment. So at that point, if you could begin to wrap it up, we would really appreciate that. So Natalie, is it you or Raquel that's going to be looking to see who has raised their hand?
That will be me. And at this time, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, well, one more call for those who wish to make a public comment.
I do see one hand, and I'll
Okay.
recognize Rebecca Hirsch.
Hi, Natalie, and hi, members of the committee. I don't have a comment. I just wanted to introduce myself to you. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm the registrar at People's College of Law, and I'm sitting in for our dean, Juan Sariñana, who couldn't be here today.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments?
No other comments.
Okay, well, we will close public comment then and move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes from our August 18, 2021 meeting. They were available on a link to the agenda. Does anyone have any questions or changes they wish to make to the minutes? Seeing none, hearing none, a motion would be appropriate along with the second.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, Do we need a roll call vote?
Jay Frickberg, Michael Clancy,
Aye.
Linda Keller,
Aye.
Paul Kramer,
Yes.
Jessica Park,
Aye.
George Liu.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Hey, thank you all. Next is a staff report, and I'll turn that over to Natalie to present.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. The first item on the staff report is an update on the implementation of the new accredited law school rules to be implemented January 1. So since the last CSBARS meeting, the Board of Trustees heard the recommendation from the committee of bar examiners regarding the wording for the change to the rules that would allow the MPR calculation in the new rules to match the amended MPR guideline that was used to calculate the 2021 MPR. The purpose of the amendment was to address the provisional licensure program's expanded pathway to licensure, and a couple of clarifying changes were also added, not to change the formula, but to increase the clarity based on the questions that were received when that new calculation was used this year for the 2021 MPR. So that new language is posted on the State Bar's website for public comment. It will be posted through the 29th of October, and the comments received will be brought back to the committee, after which point the Board of Trustees will review that wording for final adoption, pending any comment that is received. Are there any questions about that process? Okay, hearing none, I'll continue. As an FYI, on Friday's agenda, the CBE will be discussing technical amendments regarding the fees for accredited law schools, which really have two elements. The first one is adjusting the first column of the fee grid that identifies the rule numbers that apply for each fee. Some of the rule numbers have changed in the new accredited rule set, and they will be updated, as well as the fee for the jointly accredited status, which will be billed in line with all of the other fees on a time and charges basis. So it's really just clarifying the practices that have been in place and adjusting them to reflect the authority numbers in the new rules. The CBE will be making a discussion in order to make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees in the future. As to the applications for the jointly accredited status, they are under development, and they will be released and announced when they are available. Those are the comments that I have regarding the accredited law school rules. Any final questions before we move on to our next topic? Okay, next topic, a report on the 2021 Law School Assembly and Registrars meetings, which took place on September 28th and September 29th. For the second time, these meetings were held via Zoom. They were very large meetings, very good attendance, very active participation, and we greatly appreciate the investment of time of both the CSBARS and the Law School Council in identifying topics, as well as the many and specific questions that we got from the various law students who attended. The various law administrators who attended, which definitely enriched the meetings. A couple of highlights. The first one would be that it was wonderful to see the intermediate results repeated from what was shown at the August CBE meeting regarding the success of the Bar Strategies and Stories program. As a reminder, that program will be available for those who plan to take the February 2021 bar. And so we encourage you to encourage your graduates to take part in that free program that takes just about an hour to complete and has been a really successful help in preparing for the bar exam. They can sign up at the time they are registering or using one of the customized links that they'll receive as reminders prior to the bar exam. And we encourage them to take the program as soon as it is forwarded to them. Any questions on that topic? Okay, next highlight, quite a number of schools reached out to the National LGBTQ+ bar who attended the assembly to talk about how their schools might participate in the career fair, in presenting programs, and possibly one of the schools will be hosting the Leadership Academy for law students, which is open to all of the California law schools. So we were glad to help make that connection through a suggestion from our Council on Access and Fairness here at the State Bar. We also got excellent feedback regarding the opportunity to learn more about the applicant portal. It was the first time we've done a live demonstration of the student view of the applicant portal. And we're looking to see how we can make that sort of thing more widely available and what the appropriate format might be. That was probably the most requested follow-up comment from our meeting. Another change that we made as a result has to do with the State Bar Day for law students. So it's similar, but targeted towards students' needs. We announced that about a month in advance, and very quickly that meeting filled up. And I'm so pleased to announce that we just found out today we're able to increase the capacity for that State Bar Day program. So after this meeting, we'll be sending a note to all of the deans of the California law schools, reminding them of the link to sign up, and the good news that we will be able to accommodate as many as 500 more law students who want to take part in that program. We've done it once before. Also, it did quote sell out. It is a free program. It was very successful, and we hope that it will be again. And as a reminder, one of the topics of that program is our LAP, Lawyer Assistance Program, and all of the California law schools can schedule a custom LAP program at their law school by going to our website page for the Lawyer Assistance Program.
Natalie,
Sure.
do you want to remind everybody the date of the law school day?
Oh, thanks. Yes, that's going to be October 20th, and it will take place from noon to 1, and it will include speakers from admissions, from the Lawyer Assistance Program, from our Chief Trial Counsel, and potentially from our ARCR Attorney Resources section. I also want to tell you about, remind you of an opportunity from the Access and Inclusion unit. And I'm going to read their announcement. They apologize that they couldn't do it in person, and I want to make sure that I share all of their information about an opportunity to participate in focus groups. And I think that some of you may have already reached out, but at the Law School Assembly, many of you saw the preview of the data gathered from the State Bar's Law School Retention Study. So I like to share an opportunity for all California law schools to participate directly in the next step of the study. The Office of Access and Inclusion will be holding focus groups in October and November to gather supplemental information for the State Bar's Law School Retention Study. The topics will include analysis of student enrollment and progression through the JD program, as well as a review of current recruitment and retention practices and attrition analysis. We hope that the focus groups will provide an opportunity for law schools to share additional updates or information regarding specific topic areas identified in the study and to highlight promising practices that we can share more widely. We seek administrators from ABA-approved law schools, accredited law schools, and unaccredited law schools to participate. Several schools have already contacted us after the Law School Assembly, and we can accommodate more participation if additional schools are interested. So if any members or any watching this program are interested in being part of the focus group program, please email lawschoolregulation@calbar.ca.gov, and we'll reach out to you so your school can participate. If you're not sure and you'd like to learn more, you can also send your questions to that email, and we'll be able to get more information to you. I do have a question for feedback from the CSBARS. One thing we noticed is that we'd love to get more participation in this meeting from registered unaccredited law schools, and several did attend, but we'd be interested in your feedback on how we can get full attendance in the future. I'm seeing a nodding of head from Dean Leal. I wonder if there's a suggestion over there.
No, good question, Natalie. The issue with my students is just time-wise. Most of them, given the time when these meetings are held, they're working and they're, so I've made known and that their interest obviously is tepid at best, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm. Okay, and we've tried to address that by making it during the lunch hours. So that's one suggestion. And we'll continue to think about that and the different time pressures that students are facing.
Just,
Okay,
oh, sorry. I just want to check clarifying. This is about State Bar Day time or what event?
I'm thinking
is-
about the Law School Assembly and Registrars meeting.
Oh, okay. And then so you're asking about how to get more law school administrators from
Yeah.
registered
Oh, I'm
schools.
sorry, Natalie. I just-
Okay, sorry. I wanted to get that clarification. So I think the offering on Zoom made it very accessible. It may be just a matter of, because I think some of them are really interested in certain events. Just maybe that they could understand those topics to hop in and off on might get some more engagement. And I noticed because there are topics that pertain to different categories of schools. I think a lot of it was relevant to everybody, frankly, but maybe if there was something that was sort of a focus hour or a breakout session during lunch, maybe some people will tune in more than and kind of understand where to navigate and go out of what's offered. So that's just a suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Dean Park. And
Well,
then
Well, my idea, and again, I was thinking of the prior issue you were discussing, Natalie, is we sent 2 representatives, so I'll take some credit for that. But I guess now I have a constituency in terms of representing the interest of the other registered and accredited schools, and I haven't yet. Although Jessica and I had a nice chat before this meeting. I'll do my best to reach out and reconnect with some of the deans and see and encourage them to even participate in, I don't know if they're online right now, but that's always, I think, been an issue. The CALs have always been, incredibly well organized and vocal and very engaged in whatever the state bar is doing, and certainly the registered schools much less so. So I'll do what I can to increase interest and participation, and maybe by this time next year at the next registrars meeting, you'll see a representative from all the schools.
thanks, Dean Leal. That sounds great. And you raise a good point. Many of the members of CSBARS did attend those meetings. And would anyone like to share any comments about their experience attending the meetings or any highlights for them? Dean Park?
I want to make sure to let other people speak since just to be sure, but I just wanted to say I was very thankful for both of those gatherings online. I definitely pushed it out to my staff how important it would be for them, especially working in this area, to be caught up with those annual updates. And I felt that the content of those were very useful. The bar strategies and stories, although I've seen it in several contexts by now, I think it's very exciting what it's saying about how to motivate students. And those successes are occurring on all demographic categories. But beyond that, I think the Ames portal was something that was very welcome. I enjoyed the presentations and just the topic selection. And I think especially seeing live questions from law school administrators at the endpoint was important for these topics. I think there's a lot of two-way learning going on there. So I like the programming. I hope that we continue to have this process. And I think it really does improve the experience on both sides.
Thanks, Dean Park.
And I can say that I've enjoyed attending the meetings over the years. Not only that, I've gained a lot of information, And I think it's been more important to attend from the point in time when the bar stopped sending letters and updates to us through the mail. Going to the meetings has been important. Of course, we get the information we need through email, but there are times when it's easy to just go past an email message and not review it carefully. For that reason, I think attending the meetings is very, very important. So I would urge the deans, the registrars of the unaccredited schools to attend. Absolutely.
Thanks, Dean Clancy. Any other comments about those meetings? Dean Keller.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree. I thought they were very helpful. And my understanding is that previously they sort of rotated in terms of locations and people had to actually travel to them. Is that correct? Rather than online. And so I think that, having it on Zoom is terrific, regardless of the reasons for having it that way. For myself and many of my colleagues, with all the other scheduling demands, being able to sort of, check in with each other and say, yes, that thing on, the bar exam report is coming up next. You can pop in now, is really helpful. And definitely, anytime when the agenda can say this is a set time to do X, is particularly helpful for that as well. But I thought there was a lot of good information in both days from both my experience and my colleagues who attended.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. The last item on our staff report is recent developments, and I have just a couple of reminders. The first one is just a reminder that the annual report deadline is November 15, 5 p.m. And your reports need to be received on a flash drive with the appropriate payment physically here in the office rather than electronically. That may change in the future for future annual reports, but right now they need to be here physically in the office, and we're here to address any questions that you might have regarding those. Also, in terms of scheduling, we encourage schools that are interested in continuing to teach online rather than fixed facility due to the COVID pandemic to submit their waiver or major change request by October 1st. We received quite a few, and they're being prepared for the committee for the December agenda. If there are any questions from staff in the preparation, you'll be getting those questions in October so that they can be posted timely well before the meeting, hopefully 10 days before the meeting in November. Okay. And also, just as a reminder, applications for the February in-person bar exam have opened. And so students have begun to apply. And I'm just going to turn to our state bar leadership to see if there are any other comments on that or any other topic in recent developments.
I would just say, in addition to the application being open, that we have posted some new FAQs. I think we talked about those going live in the law school assembly meeting, and they are up with the information for February. So if you haven't had a chance to read through those, or if you have any questions, let me know about returning to in-person.
Thanks, Audrey.
I don't have any other additions.
Okay, thank you. So Paul, this concludes our staff report.
Yep. Paul, you're muted.
Okay, next item is the accredited school guidelines. The proposals covered 4 topics, 5 actually: curriculum requirements, out-of-state services, notices or identification of the accredited agency, and space-constrained situations, basically tweets and other posts where you have a character limit, record-keeping obligations, and reporting requirements for jointly accredited law schools. We reviewed these with this committee First, we developed them with the committee, and I think it's fair to say that they were largely drafted by the law school's representatives from January to June of this year. And in August, we presented them to the committee, and 2 days later to the Committee of Bar Examiners. Staff is recommending the first three that I mentioned of the guidelines go forward, and that the other two not go forward. They were seen as unnecessary. There seemed to be agreement on that point at our August meeting. When we presented it to the Committee of Bar Examiners, Deans Pritikin and Frickberg presented along with staff and myself as the chair of the Educational Standards Subcommittee, both the CSBARS proposal and then staff's comment about why they wanted to limit it to the 3 items. At that August meeting, the purpose was simply to present the item for discussion and comment, but there was no intent to take action. We wanted to just tee up the issues and let everyone think about them for a while, in case there were some hard issues to continue to hammer on. However, we've received no public comment in the interim or at today's meeting so far, and so not sure that there are any continuing issues to work on. Just note that when staff does create the final guidelines, for convenience of review, they have interleaved the proposed guideline language with the statutory language, or the rule language rather. But when it is ultimately posted, you'll probably just see it as the guidelines, the actual guideline language, and in a format very similar, if not identical, to the way it would appear if it is adopted. So I guess the first question is, does anybody on the committee have any comments or items they want to give further discussion at today's meeting?
And if not, it would be understandable because this committee's been studying the rules since January and also discussed this topic in August.
I just had a quick check and just to make sure everyone. So in terms of the layout of the document about the guidelines, the latest one is posted on the upcoming CBE agenda, and it has 2 things in appendix. One thing was the dean proposal, and then the staff recommendations and edits. Just want to be sure that is the latest official document for reference for this discussion.
That's correct. And in fact, those proposals are identical to what was received in the August meeting for the Committee of Bar Examiners. The memo is somewhat changed to reflect some of that chronology that Paul just shared, but the proposals are exactly as they were presented in August. And I can show you.
Maybe just a suggestion for the members, because I know we have new ones as well. Of course, not trying to take time. Would it help for the new members if this is pulled up, or we look at the kind of chronologically through that document?
Looks like Natalie's pulling up. I actually do
Oh.
have the hard copy here, but whatever is most helpful for the group.
So this is basically just a slide summarizing the 5 guideline proposals from the CSBARS. And those that are highlighted in red are the ones that are not recommended by staff. There was general agreement as to the purposes of them, but they generally were considered duplicative. And then there was agreement on the 3 blue ones with some edits from staff.
Got it. I don't want to take time, but I felt like I did want to comment off what is the latest document, just to sort of conclude on, or, bring people up to speed on that discussion. But I'm happy to check what would be good with the members
you.
as well.
Yeah, so that would be item 0402. That's part of the October agenda, summarized with information summarized here.
And I'm happy, of course, if there's other ways where people would want to navigate. I think I just had a concluding remark as to the reporting requirements for jointly accredited schools, not pushing for a change there, but a comment. And then I had one last comment about the social media accreditation references. So if it's okay, and if there's not another plan, I'm happy to go through that. But if we want to organize it another way or do it more March step through these, that's fine as well. And I'm happy to wait and speak at those appropriate points.
Well, I think if there were no particular comments, we were just going to move on, which is to say, end the meeting, because I think this is our last item of business.
Yes.
So let's take them one at a time, those for which you have comments. So Natalie, if you can put up the operative proposed language of the guidelines, and scroll to coordinate with Jessica's comments, we can work through them. We certainly have time.
Right.
Today was a light meeting.
And because we would be actually moving to an action in this meeting, whereas last time it was tentative discussion. That's why I brought it up. I actually have the PDF pulled up. So if you want me to, I can share my screen with that, but whatever would help.
Are you working on it, Natalie, or are you happy to have her show it?
Yeah, I'm working on it. It'll be just a moment.
Dean Park, what were you mentioning about this being an action item today for CSBARS?
Oh, my understanding from the last CSBARS is that was, and there was substantive discussion there, but that was us really going through the first discussion. But after public comment, which we have not received any, it was going to be at this meeting where we really act we make motions related to these guidelines versus last time. And
yeah, basically a recommendation stating CSBARS position on them.
So, sorry, just to clarify. So for the attachment A, looking at what's attached for the CBE meeting, the CSBARS proposed guidelines, you're saying those were not actually proposed by CSBARS? That was a tentative draft?
yes, so the memorandum, let me look at this. Yeah, agenda item 0402, executive summary, that summarizes very well what the proposed motion would be and the context to that. And then in the attachments list, A is what was proposed by the deans initially, and B would be staff proposals recommending modifications to A. So I think what we're really discussing today would be the item B, because that really represents sort of the latest in that dialogue. And we did discuss it a little bit at the last meeting too, moving to action.
Okay, so we're looking towards a motion on whether we support or don't support the staff edits
Yes.
in attachment B? Okay.
Yeah, it would be moved that the Committee of Bar Examiners approves the proposed guidelines for accredited law school rules as set forth in attachment B to become effective January 1st, 2022. And just to be clear, I don't have huge additions really to what was discussed last time, but there were two that I wanted to give last comment on. The first one, Rule 4.147C, and then the social media one, which I'm pulling up.
And
So just for the, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Oh, so Dean Keller, to catch you up on, at the August meeting, 2 members of CSBARS presented the CSBARS proposal along with the staff proposal. And at that time, manifested agreement with the staff proposal with the opportunity to further discuss after receiving additional public comment. No public comment was received, and so today is the day for any final comments that would be shared orally with the CBE on Friday.
Okay, thanks. So no, so I'm sorry to belabor this. I'm just trying to figure out. So does that mean we are voting to now, instead of recommending our original proposal, to recommend attachment B, or we're just discussing so that at the CBE meeting, any additional comments from CSBARS could be passed on?
It's posted for additional comment, so feedback or feedback at this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and thank you for pulling up the document, Natalie. I was flipping from my PDF, and thank you for everyone's time. So just my quick comment onto this section. What was in dialogue here was just what was proposed by the deans was discussing periodic reporting for jointly accredited law schools. I think basically with that idea that there could be a structure there that might be different from the annual report, or potentially a subset that's aligned with A through J of this list. And I just had my quick comment from that discussion. I think I appreciated what was discussed there, where I think what is required, or what may be redundant or not, or unique and different. I appreciated that discussion, and sort of the idea that this is an area that can evolve forward. So I am okay with not moving forward on this proposed guideline, but I wanted to be sure as a comment. I really still hope that as we are evolving this guideline, we do consider, what is that subset that the jointly accredited law schools may be reporting on, whether with the annual report or not. And also that, what is unique and different could be streamlined. I'm sure that's what the applicants into the jointly accredited status may be interested in. And I just wanted to voice that. And, hopefully in the future, ALU is looking at this category with the DEAC accreditation and working on the CBE accreditation. So it's a little self-interested on my part, but I did want to voice it. And that being said, bigger picture, I am in agreement. This is an area where I think we may need it to mature and evolve a bit more before we state an express guideline here. That was my last comment there. In terms of the social media one, I am a little bit more technical on that one, and let me actually go to it.
Sorry, I scrolled past just a tiny bit. Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. So, yes, that's right. So this is one where our guideline, we had a proposed one that evolved, and where we come to is that prominent hyperlink and font size consistent. And So that's the staff recommendation. And what's stricken is the dean proposal there. Let me just double check this. Actually, I apologize. I am okay with this one. I think I needed to go actually to the administrative office one. That is the
Okay.
one that I actually,
Not a problem.
thank you. Thank you. So with this, the only comment I had here, and it's really a minor one that actually got mentioned with me with another dean. It's more editorial, but there was just that thought. There was like software and electronic records mentioned in one place, and records and services mentioned in another place. So just the thought of, if ultimately we want to be referring to those things as the same thing, to use more consistent language. So it was a very editorial point, but that was it.
And as a point of clarification, one of the things that was mentioned was that the software may not need to be accessed directly, as long as the relevant information could be, given that many of the common learning management software now reside in the cloud.
That's right. Yeah, so that was just my last comment on that. So thank you very much for the time.
It looks for a moment as if we may have lost our chair.
Oh no.
I will briefly fill in for him just to double check if there are any additional comments regarding the guidelines. And then seeing none, absent our chair, Donna, may we call for a motion to adjourn in the absence of our chair?
Yeah, so we don't technically require motions to adjourn. So I think we can adjourn without our chair, though George Leal has a comment on that.
Well, not on adjournment. Actually, as among the new kids on the block, I hope this is an appropriate time to at least raise the procedural question about future action of the CSBARS, getting things on the agenda. As I mentioned earlier, I do feel, that I'm now representing a constituency, and as Natalie correctly noted, the engagement and interest of many registered schools isn't what it ought to be, and certainly it could be and should be better. And I would hope to help bring that about. And my thinking is, what's the current staff process to get matters of interest to registered schools on the CSBARS agenda? And I can, for instance, the one that I'm most interested in at the moment is what I mentioned, I think, in the law school assembly, is given the significant success and obvious benefits associated with the bar strategies and stories, is to see what it would take, and I know it's a matter of finances, resources, to have that program expanded to apply to my students preparing for the first year exam. So to get that ball rolling, at least by way of a discussion among CSBARS, which I understand is really our primary purview, is what should we do, among others. I mean, I can think of, and my motive, of course, is getting CSBARS, and for the last 2 or 3 years, obviously, it's been doing an amazing job with a lot of input from fine people, former members, staff, and the like, to do what's been done, which was this incredibly complicated and difficult revision of the CAL's guidelines and rules. And now that that's pretty much finished, we hope, or we think, going into the next calendar year, if some time of this committee could be devoted to discussing and having some focus put on the unaccredited rules and some of the needs of unaccredited schools. So what would you suggest, or how would we go about doing just that?
From a procedural point of view, I'm always your staff contact for suggestions, and I will share things with the committee and with Dean Frickberg. And the committee will be discussing through its orientation and goal process some of the goals for this year. So your comments are timely. Consider those logged, and if you'd like to share further information, go on ahead. After the committee has this discussion this month, I'm sure you'll have more of a sense of the committee's position and a call for additional topics from CSBARS.
Yeah, but I think also just right, we've got various groups represented on this committee. We've got deans from CALS, we've got deans from registered law schools, and we've got representatives from CBE. I am hoping that you are considering yourselves representatives of those particular groups. And so, you know, as a representative of the registered schools, Dean Leal, I would encourage you and hope that you would be putting out a call to your colleagues to ask them what topics they think that CSBARS should be talking about. And then we will be working through those with the chair of the committee and agendizing them as appropriate.
No, I appreciate that, Donna. And I honestly have been busy, but I'm going to do that. You know, Zoom's an amazing technology, and getting all the deans together to talk. And again, you know, with the history, I'm aware of the CALS deans do this regularly and do it very effectively. And there's been virtually limited at best effort by the registered deans and schools to even meet and discuss anything. And to the extent that I have any success, I'm going to do just that. And I'll speak with Dean Frickberg and certainly Natalie get back to you. And you know, when the time is appropriate, yeah, we would be very interested. I would be interested in suggesting, I think, some topics that are long overdue for both discussion and examination, and hopefully some revision. So.
And also, Dean Leal, not only strategic questions that might be appropriate for this committee, but as there are everyday questions that staff may be able to solve directly. Schools are welcome to bring those individually, but also encourage that type of feedback from you too. If something can be addressed or solved even without discussion here, we're always happy to do that as well.
No, of course I know that. Thanks.
I have one more question, and I apologize if I caused the confusion. So I was reading off the CB attachment where it has that motion, and I just realized that's really the motion for the CBE. So is there any corresponding action that CSBARS has to take today on this topic, or is it the input is gathered and there would be no vote? I just want to double check because I think I may have given the wrong impression before.
The plan was to gather feedback and then to provide an oral report of the feedback on Friday at the committee meeting.
Thank you. So no need for voting in this group on this topic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah, that's a lesson. I left a Windows update just hanging rather than scheduling it for later, because I always just reboot when it loads, but I didn't have time today, and it didn't take but maybe a half an hour or an hour before it decided to reboot me.
Well, I'm glad you're back. Sometimes those take longer. So
Yeah, they've been better lately. Anyway, so I think that's everything, isn't it, Natalie? Is there anything else we need to discuss?
No, I believe you've run a very efficient agenda, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. So with that, we will adjourn today's meeting. Just a word about the future meetings. Natalie, I don't know where I read it, but the dates are not yet certain, correct? Or are we pretty sure about December?
Yeah, so the next meeting will take place on a Wednesday, December 1st, 1 to 3, and we're working on the 2022 calendar to issue to you as soon as possible.
Okay, but by way of a preview, there is, I don't think I'm talking out of school if I say we are wondering if these would be better scheduled so they're not so close to the CBE meeting for at least one reason, which is when we wait until 2 days before the CBE meeting to run things by this committee, it's a little awkward then to communicate your advice to the full CBE in those 2 days. And there may be other practical aspects too. If the CBE comes up with something they want to refer to the committee, there might be some value in getting it to them sooner than right before the next CBE meeting. So that's still being looked into, but I guess what I'm saying is don't be surprised if the schedule is not as it was before, but it's hopefully it'll be a fixed relationship to the CBE meetings, but it might be a different number of days, weeks even.
Thanks. Thank you, Paul. And some of you may remember that these meetings took place on the day before the CBE, and then they've moved to 2 days before to give some time, which was extremely helpful, but additional time, maybe even more so.
Yeah, I think part of that might have been the practical aspect of when we were meeting in person. Just, allowing the CBE liaison and others to not have to travel to a second meeting. But it sounds like generally the group is more amenable to Zoom meetings because it places less of a travel burden on you. Although I do see some value maybe in getting together at least once a year in person. So that's all in the mix. More to come.
Thank you for the heads up. Mhm.
Okay, so with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all and see you in December.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.